Arizona Territory, 1885. The sun sank low behind the mesas, spreading its last orange light across the sand. The wind carried the smell of iron and sage, whispering through the bones of old fence posts. Cole Mercer rode slow, one hand on the reins, the other resting on the worn stock of his rifle. Each hoofbeat echoed against the canyon wall, hollow as memory. Somewhere behind that calm, behind his silence, was a past he never spoke of, one that had taken more than it left. He saw her then. A figure pressed against the milepost, skirt torn, skin streaked with dust. The kind of sight that stops a man before he knows why. She wasn't dead, but she wasn't far from it either. Her eyes were open, gray and fevered, and the word she mouthed was not help, but something smaller. Don't let them see me. 3 riders crested the ridge behind her, dark shapes against the molten sky. Cole's instinct kicked in. He swung his horse hard. The sound of the leather creak lost under the first gunshot. Dust rose like smoke. Ada stumbled toward him, clutching a small, oil-stained bundle. "Up," he said. She hesitated, then let him pull her onto the saddle. Her weight was nothing. The horse lunged forward, hooves slicing through sand, gunfire snapping from the ridge. Cole fired once, twice. One rider fell. The rest scattered when he cut into the canyon, disappearing between slabs of red stone where only echoes could follow. The air grew cooler in the shadow of the cliffs. Ada's breath rattled. He felt it through his coat, the trembling of someone who'd been running for days. "Hold tight," he murmured, guiding the horse down a dry wash. The world narrowed to wind, heartbeats, and the rhythmic clatter of hooves on rock. When they finally slowed, the last light had drained from the sky. The canyon opened to a stretch of moonlit sand. Cole swung down first, scanning the horizon. Time for hums. No sound but the wind moving through sagebrush. Ada slid off clumsily, catching herself on the saddle horn. Her hands were scraped raw. He lit a match, the brief flare showing the blood on her wrist and the bruise along her ribs. "You're hurt." She shook her head. "I've been worse." "You got a name?" She hesitated. "Ada Wynne." "Who's after you, Ada Wynne?" She didn't answer. Instead, she uncurled her fingers and offered the bundle she'd carried, a scrap of oiled cloth bound with twine. "They want this." He untied it. Inside lay a folded piece of parchment stained with watermarks and something darker. Lines, measurements, notations. Looked like a map, though half the ink had bled away. In the corner, faint but clear, the brand mark of Pike Freight. Cole frowned. "That's Bartholomew Pike's mark. Big man in these parts." Ada's voice broke slightly. "He's my uncle." The fire from the match licked out. He tossed it aside, the darkness swallowing them again. The horse shifted, uneasy. Somewhere in the canyon, a coyote cried. He packed the parchment carefully. "You'll come with me till I figure this out." "You shouldn't," she said. "People who help me don't last long." "Neither do people who run," he replied, mounting again. "Come on." They rode in silence. The moon hung low, pale and watchful. As the miles passed, Ada's head leaned against his shoulder, her breath growing steadier. Cole tried not to think of the woman's weight against him, or the map in his pocket that bore the same brand he'd once seen stamped on a shipment of rifles bound for the border, before everything went wrong. When they reached Mercer's Bend, the small ranch crouched under the stars like a sleeping animal. A single lantern glowed behind the window. Cole dismounted, helped Ada down, and opened the cabin door. The hinges moaned like an old man's bones. Inside, the air was cool and smelled faintly of pine smoke. "Sit," he said, pulling out a chair. Ada obeyed. She pressed a hand to her ribs, eyes darting to the open door. "You don't lock it?" "Never had to." She looked at him for a long time, as if measuring what kind of man he was. Then her gaze fell to the rifle leaning against the wall. "You were a soldier once." He didn't answer. Instead, he poured water into a tin cup and handed it to her. The lamplight trembled on his knuckles. Scarred, steady. "Drink. Tomorrow we'll see about your wounds." Ada nodded faintly, eyes drifting to the flame. "If they find me." "They won't." The wind rose outside, brushing against the cabin walls like a whisper from the desert. Cole turned down the lamp, but his thoughts stayed lit. The map, the logo, the sound of those riders' guns. Pike Freight didn't chase people over nothing. And Ada Wynne wasn't just another stray running from a cruel man. She was carrying something worth killing for. He glanced once more at her sleeping form, the edge of her scarf slipping from her neck. The color, green, faded and torn. He'd seen that shade before, years back, waving from a surveyor's tent right before it burned. Cole stood at the window, eyes fixed on the dark horizon where the canyon wound back toward Devil's Notch. The wind carried faint hoofbeats. Or maybe it was only memory. Either way, he reached for his rifle and laid it across the table, the barrel catching the last shimmer of lamplight. Tomorrow, questions would come. Tonight, only silence kept them safe. The night pressed close around Mercer's Bend, the kind of silence that hummed beneath the wind. Cole shut the cabin door, though not all the way. The hinges stopped just shy of latching, leaving a gap wide enough for the desert to breathe through. The fire in the stove crackled, throwing long orange streaks across the walls. Outside, coyotes called from the ridge, their cries echoing through the cottonwoods. Ada sat by the table, her fingers trembling as she held the cup. Steam rose between them, soft as smoke. Cole crouched by the stove, tossing another log on the fire. He kept his eyes low, as if the floor itself demanded attention. "You can rest here till you find your feet," he said. "I won't be long." He nodded, though he knew better. Folks who said that had usually been running too long to stop quick. Her breath came short, each inhale catching. When she shifted, the shadow of pain crossed her face. Cole opened the cabinet, took out a small tin. "For bruises," he said, sliding it toward her. Ada stared at the salve. "You carry that for yourself?" "I used to patch horses. Turns out people break the same way." The faintest smile touched her lips but faded fast. She dabbed the ointment against her ribs, the scent of camphor filling the air. Cole poured milk into a tin cup and warmed it on the stove. "Ain't much, but it helps." He handed it to her, his hand brushing hers for a moment. Rough skin meeting delicate bone. She flinched. Then, quieter, "You should have left me where I was. Didn't sit right." "I'm trouble, Mr. Mercer." He leaned back against the counter, folding his arms. "Then you'll fit in fine." The fire popped, showering sparks. Outside, wind scoured the siding, finding every crack to whistle through. Ada drew her knees up, the loose sleeve of her dress slipping to reveal a fresh bruise. "Time for hundreds." He looked away out of respect, but the sight burned behind his eyelids. "You ever kill a man?" she asked suddenly. He didn't move. "Yes." "Did he deserve it?" "Most do, some don't. That's the part that sticks." Ada turned back toward the flame. "My uncle has men who never think twice about what sticks." Cole said nothing, only watched how the light caught her hair, turning it to copper and shadow. He saw something in her posture, the stiffness of someone used to waiting for pain. It stirred something inside him he hadn't felt since before the war, the quiet wish to protect. A draft slipped through the half-open door. Ada's eyes flicked toward it. "You don't lock up?" "No point. Everything worth stealing out here can't fit through a doorway." She tilted her head, studying him. "And what's that?" "Peace." A pause hung between them. Then she said softly, "If I leave, I'll tie this around the handle." She lifted the green scarf from her lap. The edges were frayed, stained dark where blood had once seeped. He looked at it a long moment. "Then I'll know you meant to come back." The silence afterward was almost kind. Cole took his chair near the door, setting the rifle within reach. Ada leaned her head against the wall, eyelids fluttering. For the first time, her breathing evened out. He stared into the fire. Its rhythm was steady. Crack, hiss, whisper. It reminded him of nights in the border hills, where the only warmth came from burning what you couldn't carry. He'd buried men in that same glow, good and bad alike. The war had ended, but the ghosts still knew his trail. A knock shattered the quiet. 3 short raps, heavy against the wood. Cole rose, motioning for Ada to stay put. He pulled the door open halfway. A tall figure stood there, wrapped in a coat of buffalo hide. The lantern light caught his face. High cheekbones, eyes dark as obsidian. "Evening," the man said. "You keep a fire bright enough to guide the wind." Cole exhaled. "Chaska 2 feathers. Thought you were wintering north. Until I saw men drilling holes in the dry creek." Chaska stepped inside, stamping the dust from his boots. His gaze landed on Ada. "She's the reason they ride." Ada straightened. "You know them?" He nodded. "Pike's men. They dig where they shouldn't. The ground will curse for it." Cole crossed his arms. "Cursing's not much of a weapon." Chaska met his eyes. "It will be when the water rises in the wrong place." Ada gripped the scarf tighter. "What do you mean, water?" Chaska unrolled a strip of leather covered in symbols, spreading it on the table beside the half-burnt lamp. "Your map," he said, pointing to the faded marks on her bundle. "This is the same. They call it Mach Tho, the breath vein. If they cut it, the land dies." Cole looked closer, tracing the inked lines. He saw how the path ran under Mercer's Bend itself, straight toward a ravine labeled Silver Arroyo. "Pike Freight," Cole muttered. "Same brand." Chaska's tone darkened. "They want what moves underfoot, not what glitters in the hills." A gust of wind slammed the shutters open, the fire leaping high. Ada startled, clutching her side. Chaska closed them again, eyes narrowing at the night beyond. "Someone followed your trail," he said. "I saw smoke by the ridge." Cole reached for his rifle. "Let them come. They'll find more dust than gold." Ada rose, wincing. "If they come for me, I'll go." Cole shook his head. "No. You're under my roof now." Chaska placed a hand on Ada's shoulder, his voice calm. "You both carry more than you know." The flames bent sideways as another gust hit the cabin. For a heartbeat, the light flickered across the wall. Shadows shaped like riders moving through the storm. Cole stepped toward the window, lifting the curtain. Nothing but darkness. Still, his gut told him the world outside wasn't empty anymore. He turned back to the fire. The scarf lay across the chair, green against the pine wood, trembling in the draft like a flag before battle. Outside, a faraway crack echoed through the canyon. Not thunder. A rifle. Cole's jaw tightened. He looked at Ada, then at Chaska. "Guess the night ain't done yet." Dawn sifted through the cottonwoods like pale smoke. Frost silvered the grass. One bird tried a note and fell quiet. Cole saddled in half-light, while the stove gave a last cough. Ada tied her green scarf, as if the knot might hold her ribs together. Chaska Two Feathers waited by the corral. He tipped his chin toward the ridge. "We follow the dry creek. The earth keeps its own diary." They moved without talk. Night hoofprints traced the wash, then vanished where the wind erased them. Cattail roots poked from cracked mud. Chaska knelt, palm on dirt, eyes closed. "What do you hear?" Ada asked. "A slow breath," he said. "Older than law. The Mach Tho runs underfoot. Here then there bending toward Silver Arroyo." Cole crouched. "You sure?" Chaska unrolled a rawhide map. Symbols and beadwork worn by use. He laid Ada's oilcloth beside it. The patterns met like halves of a story. "My father drew those marks," Ada whispered. "He said water remembers." "Water remembers who steals it," Chaska said. They climbed a narrow draw. Shale flaked under boots. The air smelled like metal filings. Cole found the first sign. An iron stake hammered deep, head stamped with a circle and bar. Pike Freight. Another stake wore an oil-soaked rag so wind could carry its scent. "Survey line," Cole said. "Not for ore." Chaska scraped the ground with his knife. The blade rose wet. One black bead trembled, then sank back, shy. They pierced the lung. Ada touched the stake, fingers shaking. He won't stop. Men who own wagons think they own roads, Chaska said. Men who own roads think they own destinations. Farther on, drill scars pocked the stone in tight clusters. Pale powder fanned the gravel. A crate crouched, in brush. Cole pried the lid. Iron bits, a coil of fuse, a ledger wrapped in burlap. He thumbed the pages. Figures, parcels, payments. Under diversion works, Mercer Bend conduit. Ada stared. He signed this? Initials, Cole said. BP. Chaska snapped the fuse into thirds. Leave them blind. Two crows rose from the ravine. Old tension pulled Cole's spine taut. We should go, they'll be back. On the ride down, Ada's horse stumbled. Cole steadied her forearm. Heat bled through cloth. She didn't pull away. I should have told you, she said. Pike is my uncle. He raised me after Father vanished. He said Father ran with maps and lies. And you believed him, Cole said. I wanted to. Lies buy bread. Chaska rode ahead, giving them room. Thistle fluff snagged in Ada's hair. She studied it like a verdict. My father gambled, she said. He shouted. But he taught me to listen to wind and ground, to tie knots that don't slip, to leave doors open so no one feels trapped. Her mouth tightened. I left a door open too long. You don't carry his sins, Cole said. You carry the map out of them. They reached a rock shelf over Mercer's Bend. The ranch looked small, a thumbprint on a wide page. The dry creek wandered like a scar toward Silver Arroyo. Thin clouds stacked over the mesas. Riders, Chaska said. 2, maybe 3. Sun blinked off buckles. Dust puffed. Cole measured distance by habit. We beat them to the cabin. They trotted down. Sage brushed stirrups, releasing a sharp green bite. At the lower crossing, coyote tracks stitched the sand. Cole brushed them out with a branch and kept moving. At the corral gate, the wind carried coal oil. The coffee pot sat on the step, not where Cole had left it. Inside, nothing, broken. But the lamp wick had been trimmed by a different hand. Ada touched the table. A grain of drilling powder lay beside the tin cup, bright as frost. They were inside. Cole checked the rifle rack. One slot, empty. They know what I use. Chaska lifted the curtain with a knife tip. Marshal Mallory rides with them. I saw his coat 3 miles out. Ada steadied herself on the chair. The scarf slipped and caught on her shoulder like a flag. Then we're out of time, Cole said. We put their stakes and this ledger on the table, or we run and let them write the ending. Ada met his eyes. No more running. Hoofbeats drummed beyond the cottonwoods, slow, certain, the rhythm of men who carry papers and guns in one pocket. The door stood half-closed, breathing with the house. Cole set the ledger, the broken fuse, and the oilcloth map beneath the lamp. He rolled his sleeves, scar and sun exposed. He took the threshold like a post in a fence line, hand on the frame as if checking the cabin's pulse. Let them knock, he said. 3 measured blows shook crockery. Evening, Mercer, a voice called. Marshal Reed Mallory, step aside and hand over the girl. Cole's jaw set. He didn't move. "Not tonight," he said. Rain began to fall in thin, slanted threads, pattering against the tin roof. Inside the cabin, the fire burned low, the lamplight trembling. Ada folded the oilcloth map and set it behind Cole's rifle. Chaska paced once, then vanished into the rain, promising to watch the ridge. Cole stood by the window, his face carved in shadow. "They'll come tonight," he said quietly. Ada looked up from her chair. "The marshal?" He nodded. "And worse." A knock came. Not hurried, but official. 3 precise raps that made the walls thrum. Cole opened the door halfway. Marshal Reed Mallory stood on the porch, his slicker dripping, his badge dull beneath the stormlight. Behind him, 2 deputies waited astride their horses, lanterns swinging. "Evening, Mercer," Mallory said. "We've got questions about a missing woman." Cole didn't move. "You found her." Mallory's eyes slid past him, into the dim interior. "That's so. Step aside." "No cause," Cole said. Mallory smiled thin. "Cause enough. Her uncle, Bartholomew Pike, swore she's unstable. Says she ran off with company property." Ada rose slowly. "If I'm property, then I'd rather stay lost." Mallory's gaze sharpened. "Name's Adeline Pike. You're wanted in Prescott." Cole said evenly, "You got a warrant that names this cabin?" Mallory's fingers brushed the brim of his hat. "Not yet." "Then you're on my land, in my reign. You'll leave it that way." For a moment, only the hiss of water between them. One deputy shifted in his saddle. Mallory studied Cole's face like a gambler sizing a bet, then stepped back. "Don't test the law, Mercer. I can make you part of her story." Cole shut the door slow. The latch clicked. Ada exhaled, trembling. "You shouldn't have done that." He crossed to the table, loading cartridges. "The law doesn't scare me. Men behind it do." Her voice cracked. "Mallory used to work for Pike. My father said they buried things together." Cole's hands paused. "What kind of things?" "Water," she said. "They dammed it, poisoned it, sold the dry land to settlers who'd pay to live near a lie." He looked up, meeting her eyes. "Your father knew?" "He tried to stop them. That's why he disappeared." A flash of lightning burst across the window, bleaching the room white. Cole caught the reflection of her face. Haunted, defiant, alive. He remembered his own father, dying with a pickaxe in his hands, choking on dust from a mine that had been certified safe by Pike Freight. He holstered his gun. "We end this." Thunder rolled like a drumbeat over the hills. Ada opened the cupboard, searching for dry clothes. Her hand froze on a ledger bound in cracked leather. She lifted it, thumbing through numbers, dates, signatures, then stopped at one entry scrawled in her father's handwriting. "Mercer Survey. Water diversion test successful." She turned to him, pale. "You were part of it?" Cole's jaw locked. "I hauled freight. Never knew what was in the crates." "But you drew their maps." His silence was answer enough. "I thought I'd left it behind." he said finally. Didn't know it would crawl back under my roof. She closed the ledger, eyes wet. Maybe you can still put it right. Outside, hooves splashed through the mud. Mallory's voice cut through the wind. You've got till morning, Mercer. Bring her out, or I bring the law in. Cole doused the lantern. Get some rest, he told Ada. We ride at dawn. Where? To someone who still remembers truth. He packed the ledger and folded map into his saddlebag. The fire hissed low, throwing the last sparks like fireflies against the dark. Ada touched his arm. You don't have to save me. I ain't, he said. Just saving what's left worth saving. Rain thickened, beating steady against the glass. He stepped onto the porch, letting it soak him. Lightning traced the horizon, illuminating the far ridge where a lone figure watched. Mallory, unmoving beneath his slicker. Cole turned back inside, closing the door but not locking it. Ada sat by the fire, green scarf drying beside her, the color deepening in the heat. Tomorrow would drag their pasts into daylight. Tonight was only the storm's breath, holding its aim. Dawn came quiet and gray, dragging mist up from the arroyo. The rain had passed, leaving the ground soft under hoof and boot. Ada sat at the table, fingers tracing the edges of the old ledger. Cole packed his saddlebag slow, deliberate, as if motion itself might keep his thoughts from turning backward. We ride now, he said. To where? She asked. To Sister Agnes. She keeps the church by the mill road, knows what pike berries. The road wound through low hills, dotted with juniper and stone. The morning light caught in puddles, turning them to mirrors. Ada kept her scarf tied tight, though every breath still ached. Chaska followed from a distance, his horse silent over wet ground. When they reached the chapel, the bell tower leaned like a tired sentinel. Smoke drifted from a chimney pipe. Sister Agnes, small and spare, stood in the doorway with a broom. Her eyes narrowed when she saw Ada. You carry pike blood, she said, and trouble. I carry a map, Ada replied. Cole dismounted. She also carries truth. Inside, the chapel smelled of candle wax and cedar. Crosses carved from driftwood hung crooked on the wall. Agnes led them to a chest bound with iron. Your father left something, she said. Said it might save the land or drown it, depending on the hands. Ada's breath hitched. He's dead? Been years now, Agnes answered. But the dead's still right. She lifted a sealed envelope, wax cracked from time. Ada opened it with shaking fingers. The paper was brittle, stained with age. A map unfolded, different from the one Pike had chased. Lines drawn by hand, curling where water once ran. At the bottom, a note in her father's hand. If they dig the wrong place, the plane will sink. The Makthos lies beneath Silver Arroyo. Guard it from men who call thirst profit. Ada's eyes filled. He knew all along. Cole leaned closer. He marked the same symbols Chaska showed us. Agnes crossed herself. Pike's surveyors came through here last month. They carried dynamite. talked of a vein richer than silver. Cole's jaw tightened. It's not silver they're after. It's water. The nun nodded once. Then the earth's about to bleed. Outside, wind hissed through the graveyard fence. Ada folded the letter, tucking it into her bodice. He trusted me to stop it. Cole met her gaze. You're not stopping it alone. A flicker of warmth passed between them. Brief, human. When they stepped out, Chaska waited by the horses. Smoke over the south ridge, he said. They're already setting charges. Cole swung into the saddle. Then we don't wait. The ride back was fast, mud splattering boots and coats. Thunder rolled from far off, though the sky stayed dry. Ada pressed the letter against her chest, whispering words her father used to say when the wind rose. The land remembers what it gives. Halfway home, they found a wagon overturned beside the trail, crates split open. More Pike freight supplies, gunpowder sacks. Cole lit a match, examined the mark burned into the wood. Silver Arroyo. They're digging tonight. Ada crouched beside him. You can read the ground, can't you? He nodded. Enough to find their fuse line. Then we stopped them before the first spark. Chaska drew a line in the dirt with his knife. The arroyo cuts like a vein. We follow its left arm. Quiet. By dusk, they reached the ridge overlooking the canyon. Below, men swarmed around wagons, torches moving like fireflies. Cole raised the spyglass. He counted 10 riders, 1 foreman, and a man in a dark coat, Pike himself. Ada whispered, He's here. Pike's voice carried faintly through the canyon. At dawn, blow it clean through. Cole's stomach turned cold. He'll break the bedrock. The river won't survive it. Ada gripped the reins. He killed my father for that secret. Cole lowered the glass. Then let's make sure it dies with him. They rode back under the cover of night. The stars hid behind clouds. At Mercer's Bend, Cole spread the letter beside his rifle and lantern. Tomorrow we warn the town, he said. If they won't listen, we bring proof. Ada sat near the fire, reading her father's last words again. The ink shimmered faintly where tears had fallen. He trusted me to find someone who listens, she murmured. You found him, Cole said. She looked up, eyes soft but unsure. And if we fail? Then the earth will tell the story. The flames crackled, their shadows dancing over the walls. Outside, Chaska's signal smoke rose faint and gray into the dark, twisting toward the distant ridge. By morning, the sky had turned a pale brass, dust rising in thin veils over the flats. The trail to town shimmered like heat on water. Cole led the wagon with slow care, one hand on the reins, the other resting near his rifle. Ada sat beside him, her scarf tied loose around her throat, eyes scanning the horizon. She hadn't spoken much since reading her father's letter, but the set of her jaw said enough. Fear buried under resolve. Chaska rode ahead, his silhouette sharp against the sun. Town's busy, he called back. Market day. Cole nodded. Good. Easier to disappear in the noise. They reached the first row of buildings as the clock tower struck 10. A dusty banner drooped across Main Street. Summer Fair, Dry Creek County. Music from a fiddle drifted through the air, light and cracked. Ada glanced toward the storefronts. Paint peeling, barrels stacked, children chasing a hoop through dust. For a heartbeat, it almost looked like peace. But whispers travel faster than wind in small towns. When Cole dismounted at the general store, he felt the eyes before he saw them. Hattie Crow, the widow who ran the post office, leaned from her porch with a parcel in hand. "Well," she said, loud enough for half the street to hear, "if that ain't Cole Mercer bringing home a Pike girl." Ada froze. Cole turned, slow and steady. "Morning, Hattie." "Morning," she replied, sweet as vinegar. "Didn't figure you for charity work." "Didn't figure you for gossip before coffee." Laughter rippled from nearby men. Hattie's smile tightened. "You should pick your company better, Mercer. That family's name poisons wells faster than drought." Ada's fingers twitched at her scarf. Cole stepped closer to her, his tone low. "Come on." They entered the store, leaving whispers behind. Inside, the air smelled of flour and kerosene. The shopkeeper nodded, but kept his eyes on the counter. Cole bought salt, beans, and cartridges. Ada lingered by the window, watching the street beyond. Outside, a telegraph pole buzzed faintly with current. 2 riders passed, both in Pike Freight colors. Dark coats marked with the brand's iron crest. She caught a glimpse of the marshal's silver badge at one belt. "Cole," she whispered. He followed her gaze. His jaw hardened. "We need to finish quick." At the counter, the shopkeeper leaned closer. "You ought to know Mercer. Marshal Mallory's been asking after you. Said he'll stop by your ranch tonight." "Let him bring rain while he's at it," Cole said, taking the supplies. When they stepped back into the sun, Chaska was waiting by the wagon. He'd tied his horse behind and was fingering a coil of tobacco. "Men in Pike coats down by the telegraph. They sent a wire west." "To who?" Ada asked. "Didn't catch it all, but I heard the words Silver Arroyo and before the storm breaks." Cole loaded the sacks into the wagon bed. "That's our clock then." Ada touched the pocket where her father's letter rested. "He warned it would collapse if they drilled too deep." "Then they'll take the whole valley with them," Chaska said. They drove toward the edge of town. But before they cleared Main Street, a figure stepped from the shade of the saloon. Tall, clean coat, badge gleaming. Marshal Mallory. "Morning, Mercer." Cole reined in the horse. "Marshal." Mallory's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Heard you've been busy. Folks say you're digging where you shouldn't." "Only thing I dig's fence posts." "That right?" "Pike Freight says otherwise. They claim you stole company property." Ada spoke before Cole could. "Property can't write letters." "Right. Marshal." Mallory's gaze cut to her. "Miss Pike, you've made this harder than it needs to be. Your uncle's offering a reward for your safe return." "Safe for who?" she asked. He ignored her, turning back to Cole. "I suggest you think about which side of the line you're standing on. Men who stand in the middle tend to get buried under it." Cole held his stare. I've been buried before. Mallory's smile thinned. Suit yourself. He tipped his hat and walked off, boots striking hard against the boards. When the marshal vanished around the corner, Hattie reappeared with a folded telegram in her hand. This came through an hour ago. Didn't know who to give it to, but it's got your name, Miss Wynne. Ada took it carefully. The paper was damp with sweat, ink smudged. She read aloud under her breath. Dry Creek order advanced. Dynamite moves tonight. Silver Arroyo. Her voice broke on the last word. Cole snatched the note. He's not waiting for rain. He's lighting the fuse before it hits. Chaska's eyes narrowed. We have hours. Cole turned toward the wagon. Then we don't waste 'em. As they left town, Ada glanced back once. Mallory stood near the telegraph office, watching them ride away. A line of smoke rose behind him, curling into the sky like a signal none of them wanted to read. The road home shimmered under the heat. Each hoofbeat counted down what little time they had left before the desert took its breath for good. By dusk, the air turned copper, heat clinging to every breath. The saloon at Dry Creek sat loud with fiddle music and smoke. Cole pushed through the swinging doors, Chaska at his side. Ada waited in the wagon outside, scarf drawn high, watching the street's shadows stretch. Inside, lamps burned low, their wicks drowned in whiskey soot. Men crowded poker tables, boots up, guns loose at the hip. Cole moved straight to the bar. 2 coffees, he said. The bartender raised an eyebrow, but poured. Across the room, Marshal Mallory sat with Victor Hale, Pike's new foreman, the one who carried charm like a weapon. Hale's coat gleamed even in the dim. Beside him lay a rolled blueprint, stained with mud. They spoke in murmurs, heads close until Mallory passed a folded note toward Hale. Chaska whispered, "They talk of Silver Arroyo." Cole nodded, eyes never leaving them. "I'll hear the rest." He left his cup half full and walked toward the piano, pretending to check the instrument's worn keys. From there, voices came clear between music gaps. "Dynamite wagons head out at midnight," Mallory said. 2 guards each, 1 wagon marked feed, 1 marked flour. Hale grinned. "They'll never know what hit 'em. Once we blast through the old bedrock, water or silver, either way we win." Cole's jaw tightened. "You're gonna lose." He turned to leave, but a drunk miner staggered into him, knocking his hat sideways. "Easy there, friend," Cole said quietly. When the man reached for his gun, Chaska's knife appeared from nowhere, tip kissing the miner's throat. Silence dropped like dust. Cole's voice cut the tension. "I'm not looking for a fight. Yet." They slipped out through the back door. The night air hit cold, smelling of rain that hadn't come. Ada stepped from the shadows. "What did you hear?" "Enough," Cole said. "They're rolling dynamite disguised as flour. Midnight." Chaska nodded. "And the trail?" "Runs through Devil's Wash. We'll cut them there." Ada's gaze sharpened. "We can prove it, if we take 1 crate." Cole looked at her, measuring the risk. "You sure you want to see what's inside?" "I've seen worse," she said. They reached the freight yard behind the general store, where wagons lined in rows under canvas. A single lamp burned at the stable door. Cole drew his revolver, motioned for silence. The guard by the fence chewed tobacco, back turned. Chaska whistled low, the sound of a nighthawk. The man turned just enough. Cole struck once, clean. The guard dropped without a sound. Ada helped untie the tarp on the nearest wagon. Beneath the sacks of grain lay iron barrels, fuse wire coiled tight. She touched the lid. Cold, metallic, stamped with Pike's crest. "God," she whispered, "they'll crack the whole valley open." Cole pried the lid. Inside, sticks of dynamite, dry packed in sawdust. At the bottom, a letter folded in wax paper. "Deliver to Dry Mesa before dawn. Signed V. Hale." He pocketed it. "This is proof enough." They replaced the cover, set the guard back against the fence, as if he'd fallen asleep drunk. When they returned to the wagon, Ada's hands shook. "They'll notice the seal's broken. They'll think a rattler got curious," Cole said. But Chaska's gaze drifted toward the telegraph pole near the station, where a single wire hummed in the dark. "They're sending news ahead already." Cole followed his stare. The operator's window glowed faintly. Inside, a young boy tapped the key, letters snapping sharp against the kahua night. Ada squinted, reading lips through the glass. "Dry Mesa, before the rain." Cole cursed. "Too late. They've warned Pike." "Not if we cut the wire," Chaska said. He climbed the pole like a cat, knife between his teeth. A spark flashed as the wire snapped, falling in a hiss of blue light. The town plunged into deeper silence. They left the saloon's glow behind, riding hard down the canyon road. The dynamite convoy would soon follow. Every hoofbeat thudded like a countdown. Halfway to the ridge, a shot cracked from the bluff. The bullet tore through Cole's sleeve. He dove from the saddle, rolling behind a rock. Chaska fired back once. The shooter's lantern flared and died. Ada scrambled toward him. "You're hit!" "Just grazed," he said. "Stay low." When the echoes faded, Cole crawled to the dead sniper's side. The man's coat bore Pike's mark, and in his pocket, a canister of drilling oil, the same scent that lingered at Mercer's Bend. Cole stared at it a long time. "They marked the mock, though, with this." Chaska nodded grimly. "So they can follow it to the heart." Ada's voice steadied. "Then we burn it first." Cole rose, gripping the canister. "Tomorrow they'll know someone's fighting back." The stars hung sharp above them, the desert stretching endless and cruel. But for the first time, the darkness felt like cover, not a cage. As they mounted up, lightning forked far on the horizon, dry, distant, but moving their way. The next morning dawned bright and cruel, the kind of sun that made the dust shimmer like glass. Dry Creek bustled with noise. The fair had begun. Fiddles played, banners snapped in the wind, and the smell of roast corn drifted through the square. Ada walked beside Cole, the brim of her hat tilted low. Her heart beat faster than the drumline marching past. "Feels wrong," Cole muttered. All this cheer while the ground's ready to split. She nodded. Pike's men hide better in crowds. They passed the baker's stand, the schoolhouse, and a tent marked Pike Freight Exhibition. A silver logo gleamed on its flap. 2 guards stood outside, clean coats and 2 polished boots. Ada's stomach twisted. "He's here," she whispered. Inside the tent, a man's voice boomed smooth and confident. "Ladies and gentlemen, progress belongs to the brave." Victor Hale stepped into view, tall, groomed, smile cut sharp as a blade. "The Pike Company brings water to the desert, prosperity to every homestead." Applause followed. Ada froze at the sound of his laugh. Cole noticed the tremor in her hand. "You know him?" "He was engaged to me," she said. "My uncle's deal. Land for loyalty." Hale's gaze swept the crowd and stopped. For a fraction of a breath, recognition flickered. He raised his glass as if in toast. "Miss Wynne," he said smoothly. "Or should I say Mrs. Mercer by now? Small-town gossip moves quick." Cole's jaw flexed. "You've got a short memory, Hale. Or a long list of lies." Hale chuckled. "Still a man of fences, I see. Trouble is, Mercer, the world's changing. Fences don't stop floods." "Neither do speeches," Cole said. Laughter rippled, uneasy. Hale held up a folded document. "A guarantee of protection, Ada. Sign this, and your name clears. Your uncle forgets the past. Everyone lives. Time 400, Mom." Ada's breath caught. "Protection from what? The truth?" "From the kind of accidents that bury people," he said softly. "Don't be foolish." Cole stepped between them. "She's not signing anything." Mallory appeared at the tent's edge, eyes cold. "Afternoon, Mercer. You always seem to wander where the law stands." "Depends which side's sinkin'," Cole said. The air thickened. The crowd sensed it. Murmurs grew, music faltered. Hale smiled again, holding his composure like armor. "The lady deserves peace. Let her choose." Ada's gaze darted between them. Hale's charm, Cole's quiet defiance. She took the paper, reading quickly. The ink shimmered faint under the light. Transfer of guardianship. Silver Arroyo Holdings. "This isn't protection," she said. "It's surrender." Hale leaned closer. "Surrender buys safety. Ask yourself, what's freedom worth if you die for it?" Ada tore the page in half. "More than you'll ever know." The sound cut through the tent like a shot. Gasps followed, and Mallory's hand twitched near his gun. Cole's voice came low. "You ought to walk away, Marshal." "Can't," Mallory said. "Law's been bought, same as the land." Cole's eyes hardened. "Then I guess I'm working unpaid." Mallory's smirk faltered. "Careful, the town watches." Cole looked around at the faces. Miners, mothers, drifters, all pretending not to see. "They've been watching a long time," he said. "Never helped much." Hale clapped once. "That's enough drama for a fair gentleman." He motioned to his guards. "Escort Miss Wynne to her uncle's coach." 2 men stepped forward. Chaska appeared first, silent, sudden. His rifle butt cracked one guard's jaw. The other froze as Cole's revolver found his belt buckle. Hale's smile disappeared. "You'll regret this." "Already do," Cole said. They backed toward the tent flap. Ada grabbed the ledger Hale had set on display, a company record stamped with Pike's seal. She tucked it beneath her coat. Outside, the crowd broke into nervous chatter, pretending the scuffle hadn't happened. Hattie Crow pushed through, eyes wide. "You've stirred a hornet's nest, Cole Mercer. Marshall just took Pike's gold." "Figured," Cole said. "You can't stay," she hissed. "He's posted riders." Ada grabbed Hattie's sleeve. "You heard the telegraph yesterday. When do they strike?" Hattie hesitated, then lowered her voice. "Tonight. Dry Mesa, before the rain hits. He's sending 3 wagons, 2 covered, 1 decoy. I only heard because I sort the damn wires." Cole nodded once. "You did good." "Did bad," Hattie whispered. "They saw me listening." A shadow crossed the square. Mallory's men spread out, rifles slung low. Hale mounted his horse near the fountain, calling, "Bring them in alive!" Cole seized Ada's arm. "We ride." They bolted through the alley behind the blacksmiths, hooves clattering on cobblestone. Bullets chased them, splintering barrels, ricocheting off walls. Chaska fired once, clearing the path. Ada ducked low, clutching the ledger tight. At the town's edge, rain began to fall, thick, sudden, as if the sky itself broke open. The fair's banners tore loose, whipping through the storm. Hattie's voice echoed behind them. "Run, damn you, before they make ghosts of you!" Cole spurred his horse harder, the canyon ahead flashing white with lightning. Ada looked back once, saw Hale shouting orders, Mallory's badge glinting, and the fair collapsing in chaos. "Hold on," Cole shouted over the thunder. "We're not done yet!" The storm swallowed the town whole. The storm came down like judgment. Sheets of rain hammered the plain, turning dust into quicksand. The night flashed white every few seconds, lightning cracking across the ridge like the earth itself was splitting. Cole's horse fought the mud with every stride, Ada clutching the ledger tight beneath her coat. Behind them, the echo of pursuit rose. 6 riders, torches flaring through the downpour. "They're gaining!" Ada shouted. Cole glanced back once. "They'll lose their way before we do." Chaska's voice cut through the storm. "Not if they've got Pike's men leadin'." Thunder answered him. The road curved toward Devil's Wash, a canyon of slick rock and narrow passage, one mistake from the fall. Cole urged his horse forward. "Stay with me." A torch burst behind them. A rider fired wild, the bullet sparking off stone near Ada's knee. She turned, pulled the revolver Cole had pressed into her hand days ago. One shot cracked through the rain. The torch fell, swallowed by the dark. Cole caught the flicker of her face in the lightning. Fear and fury bound together. "Good aim," he said. "I wasn't aiming for him," she replied. "Just the light." They cut off the main trail, splashing through a flooded ravine. The sound of hooves and thunder merged, an endless roar. The wind drove the rain sideways, tearing her scarf loose. It whipped free, a flash of green vanishing into the storm. "Your scarf," Cole began. "Leave it!" But he turned anyway, circling back through the mud. Ada cursed under her breath, watching him dismount into the torrent. He found it tangled in a bush, soaked and torn, the same scarf she'd once said she'd leave if she ever walked away for good. He stuffed it into his vest, mounted again. When he reached her side, she shook her head. "You're the stubborn kind of fool, Cole Mercer. Wouldn't be alive if I wasn't." The ridge narrowed ahead. Chaska rode point, his horse slipping on the wet rock. "We can't outrun 'em through this," he shouted. "We hold the ground." Cole nodded. "The wash narrows. We'll make a stand at the bend." They dismounted near a natural overhang. The rain poured off its lip like a waterfall. Cole handed Ada a rifle. 5 shots. Make 'em matter." She checked the chamber, breath steady despite the shaking of her hands. "You trust me with this?" "I've seen you shoot the dark," he said. Chaska crouched near the edge. "They're close." The first riders appeared through the curtain of rain. Figures blurred, torches like dying stars. Cole took aim. The first shot dropped the lead horse. Chaos followed. Another rider collided, curses swallowed by thunder. Ada fired twice. One miss, one hit clean through a torchbearer's arm. The flame spun, fell, and hissed out in the mud. Then came the flash of a lantern. Victor Hale, coat plastered to his frame, shouting orders. "Push through! They're boxed!" Cole's blood turned cold. "He's leading 'em himself." Chaska grinned. "Good. Easier to shoot." The firefight raged across the wash, flashes of muzzle light dancing off wet rock. Ada ducked low, gasping as a bullet tore through her sleeve. Cole dragged her behind a boulder. "You hit?" "Just scared," she said through her teeth. "Good. Means you're still breathing." Thunder rolled again, louder, closer. A white flash lit the sky, and for 1 second, Cole saw the impossible. The shadow of dynamite wagons moving along the rim above them, drawn by mules covered in tarps. Hale's voice echoed. "Light the fuse, we'll bury them and the evidence both." Cole turned to Chaska. "They'll blow the ridge. Then we take it from them." Cole mounted mid-rein, kicking his horse uphill through the slick slope. Chaska followed, rifle slung. Ada stayed behind, gripping the ledger and praying the lightning would blind the men long enough for the others to reach the rim. Up top, Hale's men fumbled with the fuses, their torches guttering in the wind. Cole lunged, tackling one from behind. The man fell screaming into the wash. Another drew his pistol, but Chaska's shot cut him down. Hale swung around, face pale in the lightning's glare. "You can't stop it, Mercer!" he shouted. "The fuse is lit!" Cole saw the spark racing through the cord, smoke curling like a serpent. Without thinking, he grabbed the canister of drilling oil from his saddlebag, hurled it into the rain. The oil hit the flame and flared wild, burning backward. A deafening crack followed, shaking the ground, but snuffing the fuse in mud. Hale stared in disbelief. "You'll drown us all for a damn creek?" Cole leveled his revolver. "Better a creek than your kind of empire." Hale fired first, missed. Cole's shot grazed his shoulder, spinning him down into the mud. He crawled toward the wagon, one hand clutching the fuse. "Don't!" Ada screamed from below. She'd climbed halfway up, soaked and shaking. "You'll kill everyone!" Hale's eyes blazed. Better dead than forgotten. Lightning struck the ridge. The blast threw them all backward, the smell of ozone and wet rock filling the air. Cole reached for Ada, pulling her close as stones rained around them. When the light cleared, Hale was gone, swept over the edge into darkness. Silence fell but for the storm's dying rumble. The wagons stood half-broken, the dynamite drenched but unlit. Cole looked at Ada. It's over. She shook her head. Not yet. Pike's still out there, and Mallory's with him. Chaska spat into the mud. Then we ride before the rain stops. Cole glanced once more at the scarf tucked in his vest, dripping water the color of green sea glass. No more running, he said. Next time, we finish it. The rain slowed, leaving the canyon steaming and alive. Somewhere below, water trickled over stone, the first whisper of a river being reborn. By nightfall, the storm had drifted east, leaving the desert slick and gleaming under a pale moon. Silver Arroyo lay ahead, a narrow canyon split by black stone and the dry bed of a long-buried stream. The air smelled of wet dust and gunpowder, the kind of silence that comes before a reckoning. Cole stood on the ridge above the canyon, the wind tugging at his coat. Below, the convoy wound its way through the rocks. 3 wagons covered in tarps, lanterns swaying like ghost lights. They came fast, he said quietly. Chaska crouched beside him, scanning the trail. Mallory rides with them. I count 10 men. And Pike? Cole asked. Chaska pointed toward the last wagon. The old man don't trust anyone else to light the fuse. Cole's jaw tightened. Then we make sure he never gets the chance. Behind them, Ada tightened the strap on her rifle. Her face was pale in the moonlight, hair damp from the rain. If this goes wrong, the whole ridge could cave. Cole looked at her steady. If it goes right, we'll have water where there's been none for 50 years. Chaska handed Ada a small lantern covered with green cloth. Their signal. When the light turns, I fire, he said. Ada nodded. Her hands trembled just once before she steadied them on the rifle's stock. The wagons rolled into the canyon floor, wheels grinding through wet gravel. Mallory rode ahead, his badge glinting dull silver. Pike followed in the rear, hunched beneath his coat, eyes fixed on the mules. Keep moving, he barked. We light the charges when the bridge gives way. Cole's breath came slow, steady. He counted the rhythm of their hooves. Then, quietly, now. Ada lifted the lantern. The green cloth slipped free, and the soft light flared once through the darkness. Chaska's rifle cracked. The first wagon lurched. Its front wheel shattered, throwing the driver down. Shouts echoed. The second wagon veered, tipping its barrels. Oil spilled across the stones, glistening like spilled blood in the moonlight. Cole fired twice, picking off a guard before they could reach for their torches. Mallory turned, bellowing, Ambush! Up on the ridge! Bullets whined through the night. Sparks flew off the rock near Ada's shoulder. She ducked, returned fire. One clean shot, one wild. They're pushing for the bridge, she shouted. Cole slid down the slope, boots grinding through shale. He landed behind the overturned wagon, grabbing a fallen rifle. Mallory met him there, revolver drawn. Could have stayed quiet, Mercer, the marshal said, circling. Could have lived out your days fixing fences. Cole kept his aim steady. And watched the land die while men like you sell it off? Mallory smirked. Land don't die, Mercer. It changes owners. They fired almost together. Mallory's shot grazed Cole's shoulder. Cole's found the man's side. The marshal staggered, dropped his gun, then fell to one knee, eyes still defiant. You'll drown us all, he gasped. Cole looked down at him. Maybe it's time someone washed this place clean. Behind them, Pike shouted orders. Get the fuse lit. I'll finish this myself. Ada turned toward the voice, heart hammering. She saw him crouched by the last wagon, the dynamite stacked high and dry under canvas. His hand struck the match. No! She screamed, running down the slope. Cole saw her move, too fast, too exposed, and fired at Pike's hand. The match flew, flaring harmlessly in the wet air. Pike turned, face twisted in rage. Ungrateful wretch! I raised you from dirt! You buried my father for his silence! Ada cried. She raised her rifle, but her hands shook, rain and tears mixing on her skin. Cole stepped beside her, lowering her barrel. You don't need to. Pike spat blood, laughing low. You think this ends with me? The contracts are signed, Mercer. The company owns every drop under your feet. Cole's eyes hardened. Not tonight. He swung his revolver toward the dynamite wagon and fired. The bullet struck the oil drum beside it. Flame burst, racing along the trail of slick fuel. Pike's laughter broke into a scream as the fire roared to life. Run! Cole shouted. He grabbed Ada's arm, pulling her toward the ridge. Chaska was already waving them up, shouting over the roar. Move! She's gonna blow! They scrambled up the slope as the first blast shook the ground. The canyon floor erupted, rock and fire splitting skyward. A second explosion followed, deeper as the buried dynamite stores ignited. The sound was like thunder trapped in stone. Cole shielded Ada as the shockwave hit, heat licking their faces. When the dust cleared, a strange silence fell. Then, faintly, the sound of water. Below, where the canyon floor had been, a spring gushed from the broken rock, silver under the moon. The first trickle of the long-lost Mach Tho. Chaska laughed hoarsely, tears mixing with dust. She breathes again. Ada fell to her knees, staring at the stream. My father was right. Cole put a hand on her shoulder. He left you the map. You gave it back to the land. Behind them, the flames died slow, painting the canyon walls in gold and ash. The air carried a faint smell of rain and rebirth. Ada looked toward the horizon, where dawn began to bruise the sky. It's not over yet, she said softly. There'll be men who come to take it again. Cole holstered his gun. Then they'll have to walk through us first. The river whispered through the ruins below, carrying away the last echo of Pike's empire. Dawn stretched slow and gold across the broken canyon. Smoke curled upward from the wreckage, thin as breath in cold air. The world was quieter now. Just wind, the creak of settling rock, and the low whisper of water spilling free from its prison. Cole stood near the edge of the ridge, shirt torn, shoulder bandaged with Ada's scarf. Below, the newborn stream glinted pale silver as it wound its first path through the valley. Chaska red elk crouched by the flow, letting it run through his fingers. His voice was low but certain. "It remembers," he said. "The earth never forgets the hands that hurt, or the ones that heal." Cole descended the slope, boots crunching on gravel slick with ash. "Let it run where it wants," he said. "No more walls." Chaska nodded. "It will feed the valley again. The old people called this place the throat of the land. Now it breathes." Ada came behind them, her hair still damp, the ledger clutched against her chest. Her eyes looked older in the morning light, but clear. "The contracts are inside," she said. "Proof of every bribe Pike paid. Mallory, the governor's office, even the railroad." Cole looked at her. "You could burn it." "I could," she said quietly. "But justice isn't in burning anymore. It's in remembering." From the western trail came a low rumble. Wagon wheels, slow and cautious. Father Miguel's wagon appeared first, followed by townsfolk and a few ranchers. Hattie Crow rode up front, face streaked with soot. "We saw the fire from Dry Creek," she called. "Thought the whole canyon went to hell." Cole smiled faintly. "Close enough." When the wagon stopped, the crowd climbed down. They stood in silence, staring at the stream below. Some crossed themselves. Others just stared, as if seeing a ghost made of water. Father Miguel stepped forward, holding a worn Bible. "You've done what no law could," he said. "You gave this land back its breath." Ada looked at him. "Then help us keep it alive." Chaska unfolded a piece of parchment, one he'd carried since the night before. "This is the treaty my grandfather tried to sign 40 years ago," he said. "It gives the mock though to both, the settlers and the tribe. No one owns it alone." Father Miguel nodded. "We'll need witnesses." Cole glanced at Hattie. "You write faster than most preachers talk." Hattie pulled a pencil from her hair. "You always did know how to make a woman work before breakfast." She knelt by the wagon tailgate, spreading the paper flat, and began to copy the words. When she finished, Father Miguel signed first, then Chaska, then Cole, his name scrawled with a hand still stiff from recoil. Ada hesitated, staring at the paper. "It's your right," Cole said gently. She met his eyes. "It's everyone's now." Then she signed. The people gathered near the stream. Hattie filled a tin cup, lifted it to the light. "To the land that finally breathes," she said. A murmur of agreement followed. Even those who'd once cursed Mercer's Bend raised their hats. From a nearby rise, a figure approached. Marshal Mallory, pale, limping, but alive. His badge hung loose on his chest. Cole's hand went to his gun. "Easy," Mallory rasped. "I'm not here to fight." Ada's voice was steady. "You tried to kill us." He looked at the stream, then back at her. "And I failed. Maybe that's justice enough." He pulled a folded paper from his coat. A warrant stamped in red wax. This was Pike's pardon. He meant to use it after the blast. I'll file the truth instead. Cole studied him. You'll lose your badge. Mallory nodded. Maybe it's time someone else wears it. He turned to leave, shoulders heavy but unbowed. When the crowd began to disperse, Ada knelt by the water, dipping her hand in. Time 400 mims. The current was cold and alive, tugging at her fingers. She smiled faintly. My father used to say, the land keeps its promises if we listen long enough. Cole crouched beside her. Then we'll listen. Across the plain, sunlight spilled over the ridge, lighting the stream like a ribbon of fire. Chaska stood at the far edge, raising his hand to the sky. It begins again, he called. Cole looked at Ada. We started something, didn't we? She turned to him, eyes soft. We finished what they began. The air carried the faint scent of sage and ash, the mingled signs of destruction and renewal. Cole reached into his pocket, pulling out the torn green scarf. He tied it around one of the fence posts near the water's edge where it fluttered in the wind. Now the land remembers her name, he said. Ada touched the scarf gently, her fingers brushing his. And it'll remember yours, too. From somewhere behind them, a child's laughter broke the morning stillness, clear, bright, carrying down the canyon like birdsong. For the first time in years, the valley didn't sound hollow. Cole stood, watching the water flow eastward, turning what had been a graveyard of dust into a promise of life. Spring came quietly to Mercer's Bend. The wind no longer carried dust, but the scent of wet sage and peach blossoms. The stream, reborn from the canyon, wound lazy through the pasture, feeding grass that hadn't grown in years. The air held that gentle hum of a place still remembering how to live again. Cole worked near the corral, hammer in hand, mending the last section of the fence. The wood creaked under the morning sun, his motions slow but certain. Each strike of the nail echoed like a heartbeat against the valley's silence. When he paused to wipe sweat from his brow, he caught the sound of laughter, soft, bright, floating from the cabin porch. Ada stood there, her dress caught in the wind, hanging a strip of linen to dry. Two small children from Chaska's village ran around her legs, one clutching a wooden horse, the other chasing butterflies. Their joy filled the air like a song the desert itself had forgotten. Cole smiled faintly, setting down his hammer. He walked toward the porch, boots crunching over the gravel path that now bloomed with small wildflowers. Ada turned at the sound, brushing a strand of hair from her cheek. You finished the fence? She asked. He nodded. For now. Land's got fewer holes than I do. She smiled. That's debatable. He stepped up beside her, watching the children dart through the sunlight. They said the village will plant peach trees along the stream, he said. A gift from Chaska's people. Said the roots will drink where the water remembers. Ada nodded slowly. A promise, then. Yeah, Cole murmured. One the land might actually keep. The door creaked behind them, and Hattie Crow poked her head out, flour dusted on her apron. You two plan on talking all morning, or do I bake this pie for ghosts? Ada laughed. You'd feed ghosts if they paid in gossip. Hattie snorted. Only if they had better manners than you, Miss Mercer. Ada's smile faltered. Just a moment. I'm not. Cole touched her hand lightly, stopping the protest. She's right, he said softly. You are now. Ada's eyes lifted to his, full of something both fragile and steady. You don't even have a ring. He shrugged. I've got a house that finally stands, a river that runs, and a woman who keeps both honest. Seems like enough. Her laugh came low, full of warmth. You make a poor poet, Cole Mercer. Maybe, but I make a good promise. She reached into her pocket and pulled out the old green scarf, the one torn and weathered from the storm. Folding it, she pressed it into his palm. Then keep this one, too. It's the only thing that ever found its way home. He looked down at the fabric, thumb tracing the frayed edge. It's seen worse days. And so have we, she said. For a while they stood there, silence settling gentle as dust. The children's laughter echoed down by the stream, where the sunlight scattered like coins on water. From the ridge, Chaska appeared on horseback, lifting his hand in greeting. The council's signed the charter, he called. Water belongs to no one and everyone. Your names are written there. Ada cupped her hands around her mouth. Then it's real. Chaska grinned. As real as dirt and wind. He turned his horse and rode off toward the horizon, leaving a trail of dust that shimmered gold in the morning light. Cole leaned against the porch post, watching him go. Guess that means we've done it, he said quietly. Ada looked out over the land, the cabin, the water, the hills now touched with green. No, she whispered. It means it's our turn to live in it. The breeze shifted, carrying the smell of wood smoke from the stove inside. Hattie called, Pie's ready. Don't let it cool or I'll make you rebuild the oven next. Cole chuckled. You ever think we'd come this far? Ada tilted her head. I stopped thinking the day you found me by that milepost. Since then, I've just listened. To what? He asked. To the land, to the house, to you. He looked toward the cabin, its shutters open wide to the spring air, light spilling across the floorboards. You hear what it says now? Ada smiled. Yes, it knows my name. He reached for her hand, calloused fingers brushing her knuckles. They stood there as the afternoon stretched warm and easy, the air alive with the sound of wind and running water. In the distance, the stream glinted like silver thread weaving through the valley, alive, untamed, and free. The world wasn't perfect. The scars on their land and hearts would always remain. But as Cole watched the scarf flutter on the porch rail, he knew peace wasn't about forgetting the pain. It was about building something stronger in its wake. He turned to Ada, voice low. Home suits you. She smiled, eyes bright in the golden light. It suits us both. And as the sun sank behind the ridge, painting the sky with fire, the sound of laughter and water filled the valley. For the first time, the West didn't feel wild. It felt whole. And that, my friends, is where the dust finally settles on. No more pain, she cried. A story of a man who learned that strength isn't only in his hands, but in his heart. And a woman who found that even after all the storms, Love can still take root in the hardest soil. Out here in the West, where every sunrise feels like a promise, they built something worth holding on to. A home, a river, and a peace carved from courage. If this story reminded you of the old days, of wide skies, quiet hearts, or a love that stood the test of time, leave a few words down below. I'd love to know where you're watching from and what memories this tale stirred up for you. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that little bell so you'll be the first to know when the next story rides in. Around here, we share more than Western tales. We share the spirit of resilience, kindness, and second chances. Until next time, keep your coffee warm, your porch light on, and your heart open to the stories that still whisper across the prairie. See you on the next trail, partners.